Good afternoon. Welcome to video 7 of our mower cell creation. In the previous video, video number 6, we started the program, and this is what we have gotten done so far, which is the startup, which is initialization of all our different cells, and then we are grabbing the palette, picking up the correct tool, grabbing our deck, moving it onto our table, and then we're just grabbed the Caulk Gun. So now we're going to go into probably one of the harder programs to do, which is our Caulk Gun. So if you notice on our Caulk Gun, we have the tool offset here to be the end, and it is outside, so it allows us to do the caulk, and we're going to run a bead of caulk around the outside edge of this opening. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make these items not visible right now. So I'm going to go inside that tool part, and I'm going to go down to the parts and blade assembly number 1. I'm going to turn off the teach one for now. Same thing with number 2, and then number 3 as well. Hit OK. And then we're also going to turn off, because right now we see the full mower deck finished. That's what you see, these items here. Let's go to the finish mower deck, and let's turn off that teach time as well. So now we just see the raw mower deck with the holes inside of it. Now what I'm going to do is just bring my robot to home here. And then I'm going to make sure that we have the correct head in here. So we're going to go to the Caulk Gun head, and let's create a new program. And this is going to be our program number 3. And this is going to be caulking. So inside here. All right, so now what we need to do is make sure that we are on the correct U tool, even though we should be, but again, I like that redundancy. So we're going to arrow over, and we're going to go offset frames, tool number, which is our caulking gun. Now that we have that, let's turn the position register to be the correct numbers. So we're going to set up the tool offsets. So let's go to new instruction, registers equal to position register number 3, which is our tool offset. Number 1 is going to be at 0. Even though we did it in other programs, we just want to make sure, again, the redundancy is there. Just in case we need to change it somewhere else, it won't have to affect everything else. Okay, so always assume that you're going to be changing something so that you don't have to go back and change it again. So we're going to make our tool offset of 200 on this program. So next, what we're going to do is, because we have 3 holes and they're going to be the exact same programs, we're going to use a tool offset to do the jump out to go to each one of these sides, so that we don't have to reprogram each circle over and over and over again. So we're going to set up another position register number 7 to be our caulk offset. So let's go to data, and I'm going to shift up to number 7, because that's what's opening right now. And I'm going to enter in there, and this is going to be my caulk offset. And I'm going to just go shift record for now. And if you want to, you can go inside there and just zero out everything. So everything's zeroed out. Let's go back to the program, and let's make sure that zeroed out for this program as well. So equal to position register number 7. Number 1 is going to be set equal to 0 in the beginning. And again, this allows us to reset it so that when the program loops again and does the next mower deck, it will modify it back to its original place, because we're going to be changing it later on in the program. So now that I have all my position registers in there, let's just insert a bunch of lines of code. 20 is perfectly fine. So now what we're going to do is, because we have 3 of these, we're going to do a loop. So I'm going to just do new instruction, and I'm going to go label 1, which is going to be our loop start. Then I'm going to jump down, and we're going to do an if statement. So we're going to go new if equal to, and then, because we're going to have items inside that if that when this is run, then we're going to do this. So we're going to go if then. So we're going to go if register number 2 will say, and we'll set that up in a minute, which we'll call it as a counter, is less than constant number of 4. Okay, and I do 4 because then I can use that less than and I know that it won't hit it. So if register 2 is less than 4, then we do this. So let's go to that register. So let's go to data, type, and we're going just to go normal register, and number 2 is going to be the counter. We're going to just call this as counter. And let's make sure that this is actually initialized to 1. Even though we're going to put 1 here, let's initialize that. Let's also, while we're here, let's create a program for speed so that we can easily check things and speed up and slow down as we need it. So when we call speed, and speed, let's set this initially at 20. So even though we did this here, let's go into the actual program and hard code it into our program. So I'm going to go ECDM insert or edit command, and we're going to insert, say, 2 lines, and let's go new instruction, register number 2, which is our counter. Let's set that equal to 1, so it starts at 1. And then our register number 3, we're going to set to be 20, which is going to be a slower speed. And we'll be able to change this up and down just to make sure that we can speed through this so that we're not waiting the entire time to see this caulk. Now, before we do any move points, let's just make sure we're in the correct user frame. So we'll add, say, 2 up here, and let's just add a user frame. We'll just use the world one that's part of RoboGuide, which is 0. User frame number 0, just to make sure that we are in that right away. So let's go to the setup, frames, and here's our tool frame. Let's go to type. Let's go to other, user frame, and right now we are in user frame 0. And if you want to, you can go set IND. Okay, and we can go set IND to 1. Okay, user frame to 1, and then we can go back into that program and just make sure that we are in user frame number 1 when we do that. So whatever we do, we just have to make sure we match user frames. Now, we didn't set up or change anything, so basically it's just the world frame that we're going to be using. So let's go to this position. So I'm going to go to position here, and I already found out where it's at because when I drew it in CAD, I know the actual numbers. So I'm going to go X, Y, and Z, and I'm going to go 1800, -29, 260, 0, 0, and then 0. So if I go move 2, now I'm at that first position in the correct area. Now I did this because when I drew this in computer-aided drafting, I found out all the positions of this opening, and then I just converted them to from where it's at from the world actual mode. So I zoomed in here, and this is going to be our first point. So I'm going to actually go down a couple here, and I'm going to add move point, and we're going to linear down to this position from a safe position. So I'm going to go linear movement, and this is going to be our point number 1. And we're going to move down this pretty quickly, 500 millimeters per second, and then we're going to arrow over, use a offset position register, not a tool offset. So the offset allows us to move all those points over a certain amount. So we go offset position register, and we're going to use that number 7, which is the caulk offset. So right now it's set at 0. So 0 means we're not offsetting incrementally right now. It's just going where it's at right now. So let's do an offset upwards for this. So I'm going to go up here to number 17, row 17, and I'm going to go add move point, and we're going to joint movement down to this position number 2, and let's bring this up, say 20 millimeters. So we're above it, and let's record this, shift touch up, there we go. And now we're going to add that tool offset as well, or that offset position register. Offset position register 7. So we're up here, and I'm going to go shift forward, and it's not letting me go forward until I get to that position here, just because I don't have that end if. So what I'm going to do is just drop my end if down here somewhere. There's my end if. So I'm going to reset. And right now we're right here. So I'm going to just go shift. I'm in step mode, forward. And now I'm going to go down. So now I'm at that position. And now we can start programming this all the way around. Now I know the numbers already, but we can also put in the other items as well. Okay, so we're going to do a circular path around this, ending pretty close to the end, because we won't be able to go all the way around because we'll hit the limit error on our caulking gun. So I'm going to just go down to, say, 19 here, and we're going to do a position circular path. So I'm going to go to my center position here. So I'm going to just go to position because I already know what these numbers are. I'm going to type in these numbers. So the X component is going to be 1829. Y component is going to be 0. And then the Z component is going to be 260. Now we are going to have a rotation of 90 degrees on this because we want to follow along with the caulk coming out along the outside. So when I move 2, we are now in the correct position for our caulk gun. So let's go in here and let's do a add move point. We're going to do a linear continuous. We're going to switch this to circular path. Okay, so we're going continuous on here. We're going to add the circular path, and we're also going to add the position offset here. So we're going to offset position number 7, because then we'll be able to move it over to the next point. So now we have to figure out what is that next point. Okay, so the next point is, let's go to position. And again, we found this out already through my CAD program. So this is going to be position number 4. And position number 4 is going to be 1800, 29, 260 remains the same. And then I'm going to go negative 180 for my R. And when I move 2, should be in the corner right here. Okay, so now let's do our shift touch up. So this is position 4. We're continuously on there. And let's add our offset, position register 7. Okay, caulk offset. Again, this allows us to shift it over to the next hole. Let's move on. So let's add the next point, or let's go to the next point. So I'm going to go position. Again, I found this position already in CAD when I drew this. So my X component is going to be 1771. My Y component is going to be 0. My Z component is going to be 260. And then my R is going to be negative 92. Now we're in that third quadrant. Let's add that point here. So add move point, linear. And we're going to do a continuous linear to the next point. And let's add that offset. But first, let's actually add the circular. There we go. And then add the offset. So we're going to go offset position register 7. So now we're at that point. Now we're going to move to that last point. So let's go to position. And this is going to be position number 6. And that number is going to be 1794, negative 28.559, 260, and then negative 25. Okay, so again, we're not going all the way around. Otherwise we hit a limit error. Okay, so we're going to get pretty close to that starting point. Again, that caulk will squeeze out to fill in that gap if we need to. So I'm going to close this out. And I'm going to go shift touch up. So there's my position 6. And we want to actually stop here. So instead of the continuous choice here, let's go fine. So we want to stop at that point, not continue on. Otherwise, it'll go continuously up to the next position. Let's move up to the next position. So I'm going to bring this up 20 millimeters. And then let's do a linear motion up to that point. Do it at 500. And we're going to add that offset as well to here. So we're going to offset position register 7. Now we got to make sure we do that for endpoint 2. So each one of these should have the offset position register to allow us to incrementally offset this over. So now that we have all those positions, let's just go in here, and anywhere you see a actual speed where we have our movement, so right here 100 millimeters per second, that's where that speed register came in. So let's go register number 3, which was speed. Right here where it says 100 millimeters per second, we're going to use register number 3. So register 3, register 3. So we should have 2 registers that are set at 3. All right, so I'm going to go just shift up here, and I'm going to run this to see what this looks like. But first I'm going to run it to home. So I'm going to just shoot it to home really quick. And then let's run the actual program, because that's disappeared right now. All right, so we know that it's over that position. We didn't get any errors. It moves up. Okay, this disappeared because it's not placed yet. But when we actually place it, it'll remain there and we should be all good. Okay, so I'm going to move down to the bottom here. And this is our program. So now what we need to do is we need to add one to our counter. So we're going to go new instruction, register plus 2. And we're going to go register number 2, which was our counter. And that's going to be equal to register number 2, which was what it was previously, and we're going to add 1 to it. Okay, so now that we added 1 to it, now we need to make a decision. Okay, and if our register 2 is equal to 2, which means we're on the second hole, we need to shift that offset over a certain amount. Okay, so we're going to do that, the then statement. So we're going to go new instruction, if select, then. So if register number 2 is equal to 2. So if it's equal to 2, and I'm going to add some lines here. So if it's equal to 2, then we need to reset our position register number 7, a certain incremental amount. So I'm going to go inside here. So if it's equal to 2, we're going to registers equal to position register number 7, which is our Caulk offset, which is now at 0, 0, 0, 0. We're going to set the X position to be in the next increment, which we found to be a negative 161.537, to be in the center of the next position here. And that I found through CAD. Negative 161.537, and then we want to set up our next position register number, register equal to position register IJ 7, and the Y component, and that Y component that we found through CAD was 387.691 millimeters. So we have a negative number and a positive number with this. Now we need to end that if statement. So we're going to go new instruction, if statement, end if. So if it's this number, then we're going to shift it over to this position. The Z is the same because it's all at the same height. If the Z was different, then we would have to change that. Okay, so now that we have that end if, now we need to do something that if the counter is equal to 3, then we're going to do something. So instead of writing this over, let's just copy this. Edit command, copy, and we're going to go select, arrow down to the end if, copy, and then I'm going to go down here, paste, logic. Okay, so now if our Caulk Gun, so if register number 2 is equal to 3, so let's find that. If register number 2 is equal to 3, it's equal to 3, then we need to shift this position register to negative 161.537, but this one needs to be negative. So I just go over here and make it a negative 387.691. And because we use the offset, this will shift that register over to that area. Okay, so we have our end if, and then now we're going to have our jump 1 inside here. So jump to label 1. So down here, because we want to constantly jump over, so we're going to new instruction, and we're going to jump label 1. And then we have our end if. So we have our end if, end if. So if I arrow up here, show what this is happening. So we go through our label 1, and only if this counter is less than 4. So as soon as it becomes 4, it does not do this if statement. So it skips this entire line all the way down to line 40, and it ends the program. So as soon as it stops at 4, the program's done. So if it's not in 4, then it goes into that if statement and jumps to the beginning, checks. If it is, continuously goes through, jumps to the beginning. If it's less than 4, continues, jumps to the beginning, and then it checks to see if it's at 4. If it's at 4, then it pretty much goes all the way down to the end. So let's actually run this and see this program work in the full program. So I'm going to turn on those other position items. So I'm going to just double click this rack here, and I'm going to go to blade assembly number 1, and I'm going to make visible at teach time, apply, teach time, apply, teach time, apply, and then the finish mower deck as well, apply. So now that those items are visible at teach time, hit OK. Let's add this to our main program. So let's go to select, find the main program, and let's go down to N, new instruction, call program, and this is going to be our caulking, which is going to be the PR3, program number 3, caulking. Okay, once we're done with the caulking, then we're going to put that caulker back into the tool rack. Okay, so might as well do that program right away. So once we're at this position here, let's just make sure that we're out of the way, that we don't run into anything. So let's call it a home position, call home. And then we're going to drop off that caulk gun. And let's go down to where it says caulk drop. And then we need to grab the pulley assemblies, and that's where we're going to use the gripper. So let's call the gripper right away while we're here. Call gripper, so tool gripper pickup, and then let's go to the home position. So notice how the main is all calling programs. So there's no points in there. It's all calling outside sub programs. So let's run this and see what it looks like. There we go. So the next video then, we will grab the final pulley systems. We will pick up this, put it onto the conveyor, and then restart everything as if this was part of an assembly line.